Blood-soaked raindrops tapped against the windows of what was once called home. Silent neighbors huddled under umbrellas, their faces frozen in disbelief as emergency lights painted their suburban dreams in flashes of red and blue. Inside the Leighton residence, where crystal vases once held fresh-cut flowers and polished marble countertops gleamed under recessed lighting, two bodies lay motionless on imported Italian tile. This is not fiction. This is not a movie. This is what happens when love transforms into possession, when jealousy consumes reason, and when the facade of perfection shatters beyond repair. What drives a respectable husband to commit murder? How does a man who donated to charities, who coached Little League, who smiled at neighbors across manicured lawns, how does that man cross the invisible line between civility and savagery? Have you ever wondered what secrets lie behind the perfect marriages in your neighborhood? The couple who always holds hands at community barbecues, the husband who brings flowers every Friday, the wife whose Instagram posts radiate happiness. Do you ever question what happens when their front door closes, when the smiles fade and the carefully constructed image dissolves into reality? Tonight, we uncover how a suburban dream turned into a nightmare of betrayal and blood. We will walk through the events that led Garrett Leighton, financial advisor and respected community member, to brutally end the lives of his wife, Veronica, and her lover, Rico Caldwell, in a moment of rage that had been building for months beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect life. The warning signs were there: subtle shifts in behavior, unexplained absences, hushed phone calls, and growing suspicion. Yet nobody intervened. Nobody spoke up. The tragedy that unfolded in Edgewood could have been prevented, and understanding how might save someone you know. Stay with me to discover these warning signs everyone missed. Learn to recognize the dangerous patterns that escalate from jealousy to obsession to violence. If this is your first time joining our True Crime Village, take a moment now to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support allows us to continue bringing these crucial stories to light. Stories that entertain, yes, but more importantly, stories that educate and potentially save lives. Edgewood, an exclusive community where elegant homes stand behind ornate gates and pristine hedges. The kind of neighborhood where lawn maintenance contracts cost more than monthly rent in other parts of town. Among these showcases of prosperity stood the Leighton residence, a 4,000-square-foot testament to success, with its natural stone exterior, sweeping driveway, and windows that captured both sunrise and sunset. Garrett and Veronica Leighton appeared to embody the American dream. He built a reputation as a financial advisor whose calculated risks consistently yielded rewards for wealthy clients. She volunteered on 3 charity boards and hosted dinner parties that neighbors spoke about for weeks afterward. Their holiday cards, professional photographs featuring coordinated outfits against seasonal backdrops, adorned refrigerators throughout Edgewood each December. They were absolutely perfect together, recalled Eleanor Winters, who lived 3 doors down. Garrett always held the car door open for Veronica. She always touched his arm when she laughed at his jokes. You would see them walking hand in hand around the neighborhood in the evenings. Yet beneath this choreographed display of marital harmony, hairline fractures had begun to form. Observers with keen eyes might have noticed how their smiles sometimes failed to reach their eyes, how conversations between them grew increasingly performative at social gatherings, how Garrett checked his watch with growing frequency during community events, while Veronica lingered longer at the wine table. I invited them for dinner about 4 months before everything happened, shared Michael Donovan, a colleague of Garrett. I remember thinking it strange that they arrived in separate cars. They explained it away. Something about Veronica having an early morning commitment, but there was an awkwardness between them that felt new. Their home told a similar story of disconnection. While designers had meticulously appointed each room with luxury furnishings and curated art, personal photographs decreased over time. Separate bathrooms evolved into separate bedrooms, explained away as accommodation for different sleep schedules. Their king-sized bed, purchased with optimism during their second year of marriage, eventually became solely Veronica's domain, while Garrett claimed the guest room as his own private sanctuary. Their physical intimacy diminished even as their material wealth expanded. A new vacation property in Aspen, matching luxury vehicles replaced every 2 years. A wine cellar stocked with bottles worth thousands of dollars. These acquisitions seemed to function as substitutes for genuine connection, expensive bandages applied to emotional wounds. "I remember when Garrett received his partnership," recalled his brother James. "The celebration dinner felt so hollow. Veronica excused herself 4 times to take phone calls. Garrett pretended not to notice, but his knuckles turned white around his champagne glass. They had everything anyone could want, except what truly mattered, each other." Mornings in the Layton household followed a predictable rhythm. Veronica would wake at 6, prepare breakfast that Garrett rarely ate, then watch from the kitchen window as his German sedan disappeared down the curved driveway. Her days stretched before her, empty hours punctuated by charity meetings, salon appointments, and fitness classes that filled her schedule but not her heart. "I noticed changes in Veronica about a year before everything fell apart," confided Rebecca Hayes, her personal trainer. "She doubled her sessions with me, pushed herself to exhaustion. When I asked if everything was okay, she smiled that perfect smile and said, 'Just trying to stay beautiful.' But there was something desperate in her eyes, like she was fighting to remain visible. Loneliness wrapped around Veronica like a second skin. Nights found her alone in expansive rooms, surrounded by expensive things that held no warmth. Her marriage certificate hung in an ornate frame in the hallway, a document that increasingly felt like a contract rather than a covenant. Text messages to Garrett often went unanswered for hours. Dinner conversations, when they occurred, centered on financial portfolios and neighborhood gossip rather than dreams or desires. The invitation to Jennifer Calloway's bachelorette celebration arrived on cream-colored stationery with gold embossing, an evening promising champagne, laughter, and freedom from the suffocating politeness of Edgewood. Veronica accepted immediately, October 15th, the date that would divide Veronica's life into before and after. The celebration occupied the entire top floor of the Obsidian, a downtown venue where crystal chandeliers hung from exposed ceiling beams, and floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the glittering cityscape. Music pulsed through custom speakers, champagne flowed endlessly, and women who normally discussed school fundraisers now shouted conversations about secret desires. "We planned several entertainers for the evening," Jennifer later told investigators. "Rico was the final performer. When he stepped into that room, the music changed, the lighting shifted, and every woman there felt something change in the atmosphere." Rico Caldwell commanded attention without demanding it. 6 feet 2 inches of graceful confidence, dressed in a tailored suit that concealed and revealed in perfect measure. His smile contained a knowing warmth that suggested intimate understanding of female desire, while other performers relied on choreographed routines and manufactured charm. Rico moved with authentic sensuality that transformed erotic entertainment into something approaching art. His eyes found Veronica immediately, locked onto her with recognition that transcended the performer-audience dynamic. "I watched them watching each other," recalled Jennifer. "It was like everyone else disappeared. Something electric passed between them." When his performance concluded, Rico approached Veronica directly. Their conversation began with practiced distance, his hand extended professionally, her response measured and appropriate. Yet witnesses noted how their bodies angled toward each other, how their eye contact never wavered, how their fingers lingered seconds too long during what should have been a formal handshake. Two worlds collided that night. Veronica's environment of controlled perfection, muted colors, and whispered judgments crashed against Rico's reality of unapologetic passion, vibrant expression, and direct honesty. In his presence, the carefully constructed walls around her emotions began to crack. His world offered something her money could not buy: authenticity, unbridled attention, and the promise of being truly seen. For the first time in years, Veronica felt her heartbeat accelerate for reasons unrelated to anxiety. She felt blood warm her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but excitement. She felt alive. The business card Rico pressed into Veronica's palm contained more than contact information. It carried possibility, an invitation to step outside the golden cage she called home. She waited 3 days before sending a message, crafting and deleting 20 versions before settling on 10 casual words that disguised their weight. Jennifer loved your performance. Available for private events. Their first meeting occurred at Meridian Coffee, a small establishment downtown where Edgewood residents never ventured. Veronica arrived wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf covering her signature blonde hair. Rico chose a corner table facing away from windows. What began as nervous conversation, halting and formal, evolved into 3 hours of unguarded dialogue about dreams deferred and passions suppressed. "I deserve this," Veronica whispered to her reflection in a hotel bathroom mirror 2 weeks later. Her justifications accumulated with each encounter. Garrett worked late every Tuesday. Garrett forgot their anniversary. Garrett spoke more passionately about investment strategies than he ever had about her. The emotional abandonment she felt transformed into permission, absolution for crossing boundaries she once considered inviolable. Their communication system grew sophisticated. Rico became fitness consultant in her phone contacts. They developed code phrases. Reviewing portfolio options meant she could meet him. Market conditions unfavorable signaled cancellation. Hotel reservations were made under her maiden name. Cash withdrawals in varying amounts, never the same figure twice, funded their rendezvous. With Rico, I exist as myself, not as an extension of Garrett or Edgewood expectations, she confessed in journal entries later discovered by investigators. When he looks at me, he actually sees me, not my address, not my husband's success, not my social connections, just me. The physical aspects of their relationship awakened sensations Veronica had forgotten existed. But beyond physical passion lay something equally powerful: emotional presence. Rico listened without checking emails. He asked questions about her thoughts, rather than her schedule. He remembered details about her childhood dreams and referenced them in later conversations. "Looking back, I can see Veronica changed," noted her friend Catherine Williams. She declined lunch invitations, but appeared more vibrant than ever. She purchased bright-colored clothing after years of neutral tones. She laughed more freely, almost recklessly. We mistakenly attributed this transformation to some renewed connection with Garrett. Each meeting increased their boldness. A weekend art exhibition during Garrett's business trip, afternoon encounters when neighborhood committee meetings provided alibis, notes hidden in books at the local library. Their relationship evolved from forbidden excitement into emotional dependency. Neither had anticipated. What drives someone to risk everything for moments of connection? Have you witnessed relationships deteriorate into parallel lives under one roof? Perhaps you felt the gravitational pull of someone who sees you clearly after years of invisibility. Comment below with your thoughts on what pushes people toward infidelity. Your insights might help others recognize warning signs in their own relationships before irreversible damage occurs. Garrett Layton first noticed the change in Veronica's perfume. For 7 years, she had worn the same exclusive French fragrance notes of jasmine and vanilla that announced her presence before she entered a room. Now something different clung to her skin, something with hints of amber and spice. When questioned, she mentioned a sample from the department store, nothing significant. Garrett nodded, accepting the explanation, while a faint question mark formed in his mind. Small discrepancies accumulated like dust on a forgotten shelf. Veronica's sudden interest in contemporary art exhibitions, the gym membership at a downtown fitness center rather than the country club, evening committee meetings that ran unusually late, her phone positioned face down beside her plate during meals. Each observation registered below conscious awareness until they formed a pattern impossible to ignore. "I cannot be right about this," Garrett told himself during midnight drives around Edgewood, his thoughts racing faster than his vehicle. "We built this life together. She would never risk everything we have." He constructed elaborate alternative explanations. Perhaps she planned a surprise anniversary celebration. Perhaps she worked on a charity project too sensitive to discuss. Perhaps she sought privacy from neighborhood gossip about personal matters. His denial collapsed one Tuesday evening when he arrived home early from work, feeling feverish, only to find the house empty despite Veronica's calendar showing no commitments. She returned at 9:30, flushed and apologetic, claiming an impromptu dinner with Jennifer Calloway. The lie crystallized when Garrett later overheard Jennifer at the country club mentioning her business trip to Chicago that same week. Suspicion transformed into obsession. Garrett installed tracking software on their shared tablet. He memorized Veronica's passcode by watching her fingers move across the screen. He documented her mileage, before and after unexplained absences. He examined credit card statements with forensic precision, noting inconsistencies between reported activities and actual expenses. "Password-protected files on her laptop," he wrote in a leather journal hidden beneath his sock drawer. "Cell phone always within reach. New underwear purchased last month. Styles she never wore for me. Missing Tuesday afternoons, 3:15 to 7:45. Always showers immediately after returning home." Clinical psychologist Dr. Eleanor Peterson explains, "Jealousy activates the same brain regions associated with physical pain. The suspected betrayal triggers primitive survival mechanisms, fight or flight responses that override rational thought. The jealous mind becomes hypervigilant, finding evidence even where none exists, creating connections between unrelated events, and developing tunnel vision focused exclusively on confirming suspicions." Garrett's personality warped under pressure. The measured financial advisor, who counseled clients against emotional investment decisions, now made frantic withdrawals from savings accounts to fund his investigation. The man who once prided himself on emotional control now punched walls in empty rooms. The husband, who respected privacy, now photographed contents of Veronica's purse while she showered. His colleagues noticed concerning changes. Garrett appeared disheveled during client meetings, reported Thomas Maxwell, his business partner. His eyes constantly checked his phone. He excused himself frequently to make calls. When questioned about his well-being, he insisted everything was fine while his hands trembled holding his coffee cup. Sleep deprivation eroded Garrett's judgment. Paranoia replaced perspective. Rage accumulated beneath his professional demeanor, pressure building inside a sealed container. Those closest to him sensed the dangerous transformation, but remained silent, unwilling to intrude on private matters. Nobody recognized they were witnessing the methodical dismantling of a man's sanity, or that his psychological collapse would soon culminate in violence. No one thought him capable of committing. November 12th arrived with charcoal clouds and intermittent rain that transformed city lights into watercolor smears across wet pavement. Weather forecasters predicted the storm would intensify throughout the evening. They could not predict the human storm brewing alongside it. Garrett had discovered a text message that morning, deleted but captured by the monitoring software he had installed weeks earlier. 4 words that shattered any remaining doubt. Obsidian Lounge. 9 tonight. He recognized the venue name from the bachelorette party Veronica had attended months ago. Everything connected with terrible clarity. At 7:15, Veronica emerged from their master bathroom, wrapped in a plush towel, droplets of water still clinging to her shoulders. "Committee meeting tonight," she announced, selecting a black dress Garrett had never seen before. "Budget discussions might run late. Drive carefully in this weather," he responded, his voice level despite the thundering pulse in his ears. "Roads get slippery downtown." She kissed his cheek, a gesture once meaningful now hollow, as an empty promise. Her lips left a mark he immediately wiped away after she departed. Garrett waited 20 minutes before following. Rain intensified, drumming against his windshield as windshield wipers struggled to maintain visibility. The dashboard clock read 8:37 when he positioned his vehicle across from the Obsidian, a converted warehouse with exposed brick and industrial fixtures visible through rain-streaked windows. From this vantage point, he could monitor the entrance while remaining invisible behind fog glass and sheets of falling water. 8:53. Veronica's white luxury sedan pulled into the parking area.
8:57.
A tall man in a tailored black coat entered the building. 9:12. Garrett crossed the street, water seeping into his leather shoes. The Obsidian's interior glowed with amber lighting that cast golden hues across polished wooden surfaces. Jazzy instrumental music floated beneath the murmur of conversations and clink of glasses. Garrett's rain-damp clothes drew curious glances as he scanned the room, moving past couples engaged in intimate conversations until he spotted them. There, in a secluded corner booth, partially concealed by decorative partitions, sat Veronica, her head tilted back in laughter at something Rico had whispered close to her ear. Their fingers interlaced atop the table. Her wedding ring caught the light, a mockery of vows exchanged years earlier. "So this is why you needed separate vehicles," Garrett said, his voice cutting through ambient noise as he approached their table. "Budget discussions seem quite intimate." Veronica's smile evaporated. Garrett, color drained from her face as she withdrew her hand from Rico's. "Mr. Layton," Rico stood, maintaining composure. "This situation isn't what..." "What exactly isn't it?" Garrett's words emerged with dangerous quietness. "Isn't my wife meeting her lover? Isn't she wearing perfume purchased for another man? Isn't she laughing in ways she hasn't laughed with me in years?" Other patrons sensed the escalating tension. The bartender reached for the phone. "We should discuss this privately," Veronica whispered, gathering her purse. No more privacy. Garrett's control fractured. No more secret messages. No more lies. When Rico stepped between them, a protective gesture misinterpreted as provocation, Garrett's hand closed around a heavy crystal tumbler. The first impact caught Rico's temple with shocking force. Glass shattered, blood bloomed against skin. Veronica screamed as Rico stumbled backward. What followed emerged later through witness testimonies. Garrett, overcome with blind rage, continued his assault even as Rico collapsed. Veronica attempted intervention only to become his secondary target. The heavy base of the broken glass served as his weapon, striking repeatedly with force multiplied by years of perceived betrayal. Crimson splattered across white tablecloth. The scent of copper mixed with spilled alcohol. Patrons fled toward exits. Rain continued falling outside, indifferent to the horror unfolding within. When police arrived 4 minutes later, they discovered Garrett sitting beside 2 motionless bodies. his white dress shirt stained dark red, fragments of crystal embedded in his palms, his eyes vacant as abandoned buildings. Water dripped from his hair onto faces no longer capable of secrets or lies. "She was mine," he repeated to the officers who approached with weapons drawn. "She was supposed to be mine forever." Emergency responders arrived at the Obsidian at 9:38 that evening to find a scene that would haunt them for years. Patrons huddled outside under awnings, rain mixing with tears as they recounted what they had witnessed. Inside, first responders pronounced Rico Caldwell dead at the scene. Veronica Layton, still showing faint vital signs, was rushed to Memorial Hospital, where she died at 11:22, her injuries too severe for medical intervention. Garrett remained seated, unresisting as officers secured him in handcuffs. "He appeared almost catatonic," reported Officer Miguel Ramirez. His eyes focused on nothing. He complied with commands mechanically, as though operating on autopilot. The only emotion he displayed came when paramedics attempted to move Veronica's body. Then he began weeping. The investigation moved with methodical precision. Crime scene technicians photographed blood spatter patterns across furniture and floors. They collected fingerprints, catalogued the murder weapon, and secured security camera footage that captured the entire incident from multiple angles. Digital forensic specialists extracted data from both victims' phones, revealing hundreds of messages exchanged over 3 months. "The evidence tells a clear story," explained Prosecutor Vanessa Montgomery. "This was not a crime of sudden passion, but the culmination of weeks of surveillance planning and escalating jealousy. The defendant tracked his wife's movements, monitored her communications, and deliberately followed her that evening with violent intent." Edgewood residents processed their shock through endless conversations across pristine kitchen islands and manicured backyards. The community that prided itself on perfection now faced questions about what occurred behind closed doors. "We keep asking ourselves if we missed something," admitted HOA President Gregory Williams. "Were the signs we ignored, conversations we should have initiated, help we could have offered before it reached this point?" Media descended upon Edgewood within hours. News vans parked along curved streets, reporters requesting statements from neighbors, photographs of the Layton residents appearing on national broadcasts. Headlines emphasized the contrast between appearance and reality. Perfect marriage masks, deadly obsession, and suburban dream ends in nightmare. The legal process moved forward with inevitable momentum. Grand jury indictment. Arraignment, where Garrett entered a plea of not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. Psychiatric evaluations. Bail denied. Trial scheduled for the following spring. Prosecutors sought maximum penalties. 2 counts of first-degree murder carrying possible sentences of life imprisonment without parole. Defense attorney Lawrence Coleman emphasized Garrett's previously unblemished record. "Mr. Layton's actions represent an aberration, a momentary break from reality, triggered by profound emotional trauma. He discovered his life partner engaged in ongoing deception, shattering his psychological stability. These tragedies leave permanent scars on families, communities, and everyone connected to those involved. If you believe awareness and education can prevent similar situations, share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding the warning signs of dangerous jealousy and relationship breakdown. Your single action could potentially save lives. Cases like the Laytons reveal patterns common in crimes of passion, explains Dr. Miranda Chen, forensic psychologist who specializes in domestic violence. Jealousy begins as a normal human emotion, but transforms into something destructive when combined with possessiveness, entitlement, and inadequate emotional regulation. Research indicates that pathological jealousy follows predictable progression. It begins with hypervigilance, noticing minor changes in behavior, or appearance. This evolves into interpretation bias, seeing innocent actions as suspicious. Finally comes confirmation bias, seeking and finding only evidence that supports suspicions, while dismissing alternative explanations. Garrett demonstrated classic warning signs that unfortunately went unrecognized, notes Dr. Chen. His increasing isolation, his preoccupation with Veronica's whereabouts, his installation of monitoring software. These behaviors indicate dangerous obsession rather than normal concern. Warning signs appeared on both sides of the relationship. Veronica's emotional withdrawal created distance that fueled Garrett's insecurity. Her secrecy intensified his suspicions. Their mutual failure to address relationship dissatisfaction created parallel lives vulnerable to catastrophic collapse. Communication breakdown served as the foundation for tragedy. When couples stop discussing difficult emotions, they create ideal conditions for resentments, misunderstanding, and eventually betrayal, explains relationship counselor Xavier Thompson. The ability to express hurt, disappointment, or changing needs might have altered this outcome completely. What if Veronica had directly addressed her emotional needs, rather than seeking fulfillment elsewhere? What if Garrett had expressed his insecurities through counseling rather than surveillance? What if friends who noticed concerning changes had initiated uncomfortable but potentially life-saving conversations? Bystanders often recognize warning signs but hesitate to intervene, notes Thompson. They fear overstepping boundaries or misreading situations. This hesitation, while understandable, sometimes allows dangerous situations to escalate beyond recovery. Experts emphasize that healthy relationships require ongoing maintenance, regular check-ins about emotional needs, willingness to acknowledge changing dynamics, courage to seek professional help when communication falters. These practices cannot guarantee prevention of infidelity or jealousy, but they create resilience that helps couples navigate crises without resorting to deception or violence. The tragedy of the Laytons lies not just in how it ended, concludes Dr. Chen, but in how many opportunities for intervention were missed along the way. 3 lives ended on that rain-soaked November evening, 2 through violence, 1 through imprisonment. Countless others, family members, friends, colleagues, carry permanent scars from wounds they never directly received. This devastating toll reminds us that deception extracts payment far beyond what anyone anticipates when making that first compromising choice. Truth functions as oxygen in relationships, invisible when present, lethal when absent. Honesty creates space for genuine connection, even during difficult conversations. The temporary discomfort of vulnerable dialogue pales compared to the destruction wrought by sustained deception. Healthy relationships thrive on transparency. They welcome changing needs, acknowledge imperfections, and create space for growth. When partners commit to honesty, even when uncomfortable, they build foundations capable of withstanding inevitable storms. Learn to recognize when natural concern transforms into dangerous obsession. Constant checking of partners' location or communications, interpreting innocent actions as evidence of betrayal, isolating from friends who challenge suspicions, creating elaborate scenarios to test partners' fidelity, feeling entitled to invade privacy to confirm suspicions. If these patterns emerge in your relationship, seek professional help immediately. If you observe them in someone close to you, consider having difficult conversations that might prevent tragedy. The Layton case demonstrates how our deepest human needs for connection, understanding, and validation can drive both beautiful and destructive behaviors when left unacknowledged. The desire to be truly seen by another person represents our most profound vulnerability. When this need goes unmet, we become susceptible to choices with consequences beyond our imagination. The line separating love from possession remains dangerously thin. Crossing it transforms affection into ownership, concern into control, protection into domination. Understanding this boundary might save your relationship or your life. If you found value in this examination of human psychology and relationship dynamics, please subscribe to True Crime Village. Each week, we explore stories that entertain while providing insights that might prevent future tragedies. Your subscription supports our mission to transform pain into prevention through education.